This is the UELSports Show.
Welcome to the UELSports Show. I'm Don McDermott alongside of Sebastian, Liggenstorfer, and Declan McCarthy. This is the first ever edition of the UELSports Show. We'll be bringing you a brand new show every Friday during the UEL sports season, which will start on next Wednesday.
Yeah, the show will feature match highlights, interviews with players and coaches, and it'll give you our views about the latest results from the last week, really. And also what's going to be lies ahead next week.
Today, though, we'll be previewing the upcoming season, which kicks off, as Don rightfully said, next Wednesday. We'll do a little bit of a review and the talk about last season. I believe we've got some really good interviews coming up on the show. And, of course, we'll be talking about ranking systems in when UEL really started in the BUCS competitions in 2009, where they are today and where they look to go for in the future. We have steadily improved since 2009, of course, and every year, really, thanks to the guys of, just naming a few, really, JP, the basketball coach, and of course David Cosford, who's been a massive influence around the UEL sporting world. Particularly last year, it was quite an important year. Don, you've done a lot of covering for it, and it was quite a special year for especially the big sides, such as the basketball teams in UEL.
Yeah, absolutely. Men's basketball obviously got promoted to the South Premier League for last season. They were the first UEL sports team to get promoted to a Premier League. So obviously it was a huge deal. So a lot of pressure and some pride riding on them going into that season. And they really came through with flying colors. They went undefeated in their 10 league matches. Really, there's nobody ever even close. I mean, they won by like 20 points, 30 points, even 40. They were putting up over 100 points on some people. It was amazing stuff to watch.
It was impressive to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And then obviously through that, after winning their league, they qualified for the BUCS Final Eights. That was not quite what they would have wanted.
But the competition was a lot higher than there as well, wasn't it?
It was, definitely. They had to play against teams in the North Premier League and lost right away in the quarterfinals. Watching that game, the real problem was the first quarter of that game against Durham. They didn't realize what they were going to be up against because they hadn't faced that kind of competition. And they just completely fell way behind. They got desperate. They were trying a bunch of three-point shots. They just weren't falling their way. After the first quarter, for the remaining three quarters, they actually stayed fairly level. But they couldn't gain any ground. They were already just too far behind. And then they did go on to win in the position place game after that against Loughborough University and defeated them, which I think was a really great stepping stone possibly for this year.
And of course, Sebastian, the men's volleyball team also did well.
Yeah, they did quite well as well. They played in the BUCS South Premier League for the first time the last season, and they were undefeated before they eventually lost twice to Bournemouth at the end of the year. Yeah, it was really, and so they finished second. And but it's going to change all this year. They both have a new coach.
Interesting.
It's like the men's volleyball will have a new coach, and so does the women's volleyball. So it will be interesting to see if they can repeat the success from last year.
Absolutely. The women's volleyball team done very well. Of course, we know from being sports journalists in the university, we have Beth Gunter on our course, and her team's done very fantastically well, haven't they, Don?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So of course, a lot's been happening this year, but it wasn't just the big name teams. There was a lot of kind of smaller name teams. Or is it right for me to call them smaller name teams? I don't think that's right, is it? I think they're up and coming teams.
Not established,
not established, up and coming.
Yeah, the newer clubs. I mean, obviously with UEL Sports only starting in 2009. I mean, there's a lot of clubs who, they seem smaller, but it's just because, they're just so new, that's all. I mean, it's like every club seems to be on the rise.
I mean, you basically could get a new club every year as long as there's, like David Cosford told us in the interview, as long as there are people or students willing to play the sport or organize the sport and show an interest, then they can get a new club going for the next season or for the next year or for even this year.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and as you rightly say, all of the clubs really contributed. We talk a lot about the basketball and the volleyballs, but all of them really contributed towards what was a very momentous year in UEL, finishing in the top 50 of the BUCS rankings for the first time in the history of the university.
And we shouldn't forget talk about, or we can't talk about the men's football team another time.
Oh, absolutely,
but they
yeah.
pretty much the front runner. I think even before the basketball, or because they got promoted the last 6 seasons, so they were the first established team, the first team that I think played in the BUCS.
And that really all just started out by some guys that just really got together, wasn't it? And as David said in an interview that will be coming up on the show very shortly, that they kind of just really started with some guys who just wanted to make a bit of a social club out of it, and then they got competitive. And I suppose it's always good when you're quite good at something. And that they're in a very good stead at the moment. I believe 3 or 4 teams now are underneath the UEL belt. I think 3 it is, and all of them are going quite strong at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 3. I feel like I've heard that they're starting a 4th team possibly this year as well.
A few rumours in that, then we'll have to keep our wits about us. We have the UEL Top 50 video now, and it looks very interesting, Don.
Yeah, definitely. It's really fabulous. Like I said, very momentous occasion for the club to finish in the top 50 of the BUCS rankings for the first time.
So that was the UEL Top 50 video there. Very
impressive.
Yeah, great year it really was. Of course, there was the Sports Awards as well.
Yeah, the Sports Award was held at the Emirates Stadium in mid-May. Mid-May, and yeah, like every year, the UEL teams and individuals got honored with awards, and I'd say the biggest awards, of course, were the Team of the Year, which the netball team won. Then is it newcomer team? It was
most
improved club was the UEL, the Sirens, the UEL's cheerleading team or squad. Yeah, I don't quite know how you say it with cheerleading. And,
it's only saying that because, of course, his American football team came short. But it was nonetheless, it was a great achievement by all UEL participants, really, wasn't it? And of course, many noticeable faces up there as well getting awards. But David Cosworth spoke to us, and it was great to talk to him in the beginning of the new year, and he really explained about all the great achievements and going ahead in UEL sports. So David, thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure to get you in the studio as well. It's been quite an exciting year last year, and I suppose that's what you want to see year in, year out.
Completely, yeah. I mean, we've been on a journey of discovery with regard to sport. You know, it's since we set up UEL Sports back in 2009, it's just been, been amazed by how much success has been achieved. By staff, students, right across the board, and the way the university's engaged with sports has been really, really good and powerful. Last year, our best year ever, but I say that every year. I just don't want it to stop. I mean, 2015-16, the new academic year, who knows what to expect, to be fair. We've got more teams this year, we've got more scholars this year.
Absolutely. You mentioned there it was all kind of really kicked off in 2009. Just for the people that are kind of watching or listening in today as well, what's the main contrast or difference that you reckon was in 2009 to now?
We have a home, first and foremost. It cost the university 22 million to build, but the sports docs are home, which we never had. Don't forget, 2009, I started, there was nothing. There were no clubs, there were no facilities, there was no investment. It's changed massively. The university's invested money, the students have stepped up and taken part and engaged. We built a wonderful sports doc facility. We rode off the back of the Olympic Games and the legacy of the Games. So there's many different factors. So who knows where we go from here? We are number one in London, number one in the south of England across numerous sports. Number one. I would like to be number one in the UK in one or two sports as well. I think that's the big press for us. Sport, getting involved with sport is not all about sort of podium success and medal winning and that sort of thing. Sport brings a whole lot more to this university, and if you want to engage with sport, whether you're a third team player, a sports journalism student, a coach, an official, whatever it might take, it brings a lot more to your life at the University of East London than which you might have otherwise sort of understood or realised.
Yeah, no, looking again at last year, I mean, you talked about it a bit, but like what teams or moments really stood out to you about last season?
What I sometimes don't like to do is necessarily focus too much on one particular sport, but inevitably I do look at the focus sports. We have swimming, we have athletics, we have volleyball, basketball and tennis. They all achieved tremendous things last year. I take swimming for instance, Amy Wilmot, she won 5 golds. She won the BUCS Sportswoman of the Year. Volleyball women winning their league and going to the Prem, which they'll be in this year. Tennis just went undefeated. I don't know whether they lost a set. So the focus sports have done fantastically well.
Obviously, UEL's been making the headlines with basketball and volleyball, but how important is it for the growth of UEL sports to really concentrate on the smaller clubs or the new up-and-coming clubs like American football, cheerleading, who were most improved club of the year last year, and those kinds of clubs?
Oh, good, massively important. The sports offer should be as diverse as we could possibly make it, to be fair, but what we ought to do is offer what the students want. So American football is a relatively new club. I know from Freshers Week last week that it's just taken on a huge number of sign-ups. Students want to play the game. For me, it's just as important as winning is the fact that students are participating in something they love doing. If you look at all our sports clubs, we've got around about 500 students who are active within sports clubs. If you look at that across the student population, it's quite a small number, really, if you think about it. So we need to be engaging more students in sport at the University of East London, but within some of the sports clubs. It don't have to be competitive. You might just want to socialise. You might just want to make a whole heap of new friends. You get fit, you get well. Well-being is important. Healthy body, healthy mind. I'm very keen to see some new clubs grow. We are yet to see clubs such as, we don't have a golf club. I'll put it out there. Why not? We haven't got a squash club. Why not? We haven't got a climbing club. Why not? Just what it does need though is a student or students to say, hey, I'm interested in the sport. I'm sure there's a heap of other students who are interested in the sport. Let's make it happen. What we try to do actually this year, is quite a nice piece of work, is we're building a culture of being a team. We're looking at the moment at creating a piece of work which looks at being, or celebrating being united or unified, celebrating the fact that playing sport is enjoyable, and the fact that you're also creating a legacy if you're getting involved. If you look at that, unified, enjoyment, legacy, that's UEL.
Absolutely, it's great. So turning to look at the new season ahead, so what are your expectations? Of course, it can be quite difficult, I can imagine, with so many clubs and so many people to run, but if you had to set like an expectation for a general...
Yeah, we certainly want to maintain our BUCS position, so there might be maybe some smaller gains to be made this year. We want to look at a few more medals. We achieved 21 medals last year. We think we could, anywhere between sort of 20 to 25 would be a good call for us this year. And then we have more teams this year. We've entered more teams in football, more teams in basketball, American football now in leagues. So because we've got more league teams playing in leagues, then that will bring more points. That will help the BUCS ranking, and more people playing, participation. So we're looking to take that 500 to 600, 650, 700. It's happening now, every day, every week. Students, clubs are starting to get involved. They do their trials. We'll still see. So the next couple of weeks are really interested to see how the clubs get on.
Absolutely. Well, it's always a great pleasure to have you in the studio, David. I'm sure we'll have a close eye on all the clubs and yourself over the year, and let's hope it's another successful one.
Thank you very much for your time. Thanks for being on the show.
Cheers.
So that was David Cosford, of course the leader, I suppose, if we can call him a leader of the UELSports, a massive figurehead around UEL, and quite a noticeable man. Nearly called him chap there. But going into the new season, of course, American football is another club that's really establishing itself. Just talk us through it, Sebastian, because you are part of the club as well as a journalist. You play it, but last year it was more of a kind of a social experiment, I suppose, with people just really kind of turning up and playing a bit of American football, and now it's actually got a season under its belt.
Yeah, basically I think it started 2 years ago, so 1 year before I came here to university. They started out as more like a social club. They were I think around 10 to 15 guys that had irregular training. Sometimes they had almost none show up, and then last year we started out with quite a lot of people, then got more and more through the season, but yet we got established and we got our equipment, and then we trained twice a week regularly. Then we had a first a friendly game basically against City University, which we unfortunately lost.
How was that though? Was it quite strange?
I mean, because most of us never played a game before, of course, so it was quite a unique experience to see how it's gonna look like this year, because we're gonna play the BUCS Premier League this season, or the BUCS League. I don't know if it's called Premier League. Yeah, and we're gonna have 4 games now until Christmas, and then some more after. Yeah, our first game is gonna be in the 31st of October.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so like David Cosford told us, he said you had a lot of people signing up for the club during Freshers Week. Is that true? Have you gotten a really big group together for this year?
Yeah, I mean, they will report, or they said we have over 100 people that signed up for.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean it sounds great, but in truth there are only maybe 20 people showed up to practice, and 30 people. So from over 100.
So about 80 people getting ahead of themselves.
Yes, in truth it's 30 people showed up for the first session, and maybe now, out of the 30, maybe it's 20 now. It's we have to see. It's fairly irregular, but it was the same last season, that you had people showing up and then you won't see them for another 3 weeks, and then they come back.
Yeah, definitely. It's quite exciting, obviously, to hear about a club like American football coming in and doing competing really for the first time. Obviously, we've seen that with the most improved club of the year, the UEL Sirens. They competed for the first time last year. It's really great.
Now.
Yeah.
Because they won everything last year.
Yeah, so it's really great watching all the clubs, and even the ones who have been established, just going up, winning promotion, like the netball club, who were club of the year. They got that not just because their first team did so well, but they've actually got 3 teams, and all 3 teams won their leagues, got promoted up a level, which is really amazing.
Yeah, you can't complain with that at all. That's a fantastic achievement, not just by the players, but by the coaches as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it speaks for really good coaches that UEL has.
Absolutely. Now, of course, moving on, we have the basketball. Now, as much as we say we like to give a lot of credit to the less established teams, if you want to call them, but the basketball team had a really good year last year, and we spoke to JP Campbell.
So yeah, welcome, Coach JP. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, how's it going, Coach?
Good. Yeah, busy start to the season. So I've already got bags under my eyes, and we're only in the end of September, so that's not a good sign.
So the men's first team are coming into the season as the defending Premier BUCS South champion. You think the team can handle the pressure and defend the title?
I think this year will be tougher. We've lost a few players. We lost two of our big guys, Lucas and Lee, for different reasons. So we've got two new big guys who are young, their first year, so they've got a little bit of time in terms of development that they need to go through. But I think they'll be really successful for us through this year and through the years that they're here. Our guards are pretty much the same, so you've got the usual people still returning, like Dougie, Will, Lucas, Blaine. So I think I'm confident we can do really, really well, but I think it'll be a much tougher challenge this year, because I think teams have recruited better within the league. The newer teams like Solent, I think they can recruit really, really well, and I think they'll pose quite a big challenge this year. So everybody wants to kind of prove themselves once you come up into the league. So we've got them second game away as well. So we've kind of got a target on our back a little bit.
Yeah, and kind of going on from that, obviously last year was very successful, but probably obviously didn't end really the way you wanted it to, losing the quarterfinals of the BUCS Final 8. Kind of how eager are the team to get back to the Final 8, get some redemption, and how far do you think that you can go this year?
I think any time you start the season, I think if you don't believe you can win it all, or you don't believe you can win, I think then don't bother starting the season. Because I think with the team that we've had in the last 2 seasons, I've always believed that we are capable of going all the way to win a championship. But it was disappointing last year with the quarterfinal. I think we played poorly in that game. But the next day we played Loughborough in the classification game and we beat Loughborough, and we played really well. I think the league will be very different next year because of what's happened with the visa restrictions. So there'll be a lot less American players, I would imagine, in the league, which will have a massive influence considering the dominance of the North in the last however long. It's been, the North have always had strong links with BBL teams and have had professional players playing their teams. Now that the visa restrictions has made it more difficult, it could even the playing field a little bit. But we'll see. I'm confident we've got a very good team.
So you're starting a third team now this year. How big was the interest, or is the interest in that third team?
It's very big. I think last year we had over 40 people try out. This year we had less people, but on the flip side we have almost filled 2 teams before we've even got to trials. So we've got probably 7 or 8 people that will come from the first team down to the second team. So that's why we need a third team. We've effectively recruited 2 teams. So I think the second team is now what I would term as a development squad. So you're looking at players that we're looking at over a longer term. And we want the third team to be as successful as they possibly can. I think potentially in that league they could even get promoted. We've got Aaron Smith, who played for us last year. He's going to be coaching the team because he's still working here. I'm really pleased about the third team. So fingers crossed. We were even talking potentially about a fourth team as well. So
already this year, or
potentially, but I don't think so. Maybe next year, but at the moment 3 teams is just enough for us to handle. I don't want to. I'd rather not put myself in too early a grave. With that one.
Yeah, and turning to the women's side of the game, obviously they had a tough first half of the season last year, but then had a massive winning streak, avoided relegation the final game. Can they build on that and possibly contend for promotion this year?
The first thing I'd say, now I think for all the achievements of the men's and the first and the second team, I think the best achievement last year was the women's team. I think to be able to survive relegation in the way that they did was fantastic. They basically won the last 5 out of 6, I think it was, or the last 5 games. To do all that work to get to that point, it's a massive achievement for the coach and the players. And as I said, I think it was probably the basketball club's best achievement last year. I think this year, I would hope first we increase the numbers of people playing. I think we've had some horrendous luck with recruitment because we've had people come and not be able to take up their place at the university for various reasons. We've had one of our better players that we recruited come in, and now she's out long term with a knee injury. They're not in the best position to be talking about promotion. So again, similar with the men's team, we're talking about shorter goals and hoping that we can start the season with a strong team and they can compete, and we'll see, we'll go from there. So it's a massive priority for us, the girls, and I think what's great about the girls is we've got 2 or 3 girls that have returned from last year that have really improved, and for me that's hopefully, and it's the same with the men's team, and the idea of a second team is that we are actually helping people develop.
Thanks so much for being on the show with us, Coach. Really appreciated it.
Thank you for having me. It's great.
So one important thing that we should mention will be coming up this year is that the Students' Union is starting a radio station. Obviously, you'd imagine sports are gonna be a big part of this. So we do have plans for actually to have a radio sports show, and there is some idea that there'll be some games live streamed on the radio. We don't really have too much information on how often that will be happening, when it will be happening. But there is a possibility of games that will be coming live with commentary to you, either on the radio or possibly even with video. So that will be obviously quite exciting coming up in this season if that goes ahead. And we'll let you know, obviously, more information on that in the coming shows.
I think that's quite a useful thing as well to have, because there's a lot of away games some people can't get to as well. It's good to kind of keep up to date on what's really going on around the UEL sports. Of course, you can get involved by just simply popping down there and speaking to, I believe, Sienna, David Cosford himself. If you really want to get involved in the club, I'm pretty sure they're happy for you to do that.
Especially if you don't live on campus or live far away, then a live stream is probably a better way to still keep in touch with all the latest results or with what is happening right now.
Absolutely, especially if friends or any kind of peers that are playing in as well. Talking about peers and kind of people getting together and creating a new club, it was the cheerleading squad who made big kind of headlines, I suppose you can call it, last year. It was the most improved club, which we mentioned earlier briefly. Now, you've been quite busy this week, Don, speaking to a certain Mary Carr.
Yeah, absolutely. We got together and we spoke to Mary Carr, who is the captain of the cheerleading club, and you actually talked about peers and community and all that kind of thing. That was really how their club started. But last year, as Mary will tell us all now, that all kind of changed and they became competitive.
Right, so thank you for joining us here today. Of course, you had a very successful year last year, as we can see with the trophies on the left there, but we just wanted to ask you a few questions about yourself and the club as well. Prior to last season, of course, the Sirens, they didn't compete in competitions and weren't even known as the Sirens as far as we're aware, but could you just tell us a little bit about the club and what was it like before last season?
It's definitely a massive shift in direction. It was more like a hobby club. We used to get together, it was more kind of like a fitness class, but with a sort of cheer edge to it. But then a group of us got together and we sort of looked at cheerleading videos, we saw other universities doing this and thought we've still got the capability to do that within ourselves, and we're just wasting time, we're wasting this 2-hour slot we've got at this amazing gym. So if we get our act together, we can really push ourselves forward and put ourselves into the competitive race, which we did, so we're proud of ourselves.
So what caused the club to change in such a positive way, and also what caused the club to change the name from, I think, UEL Panthers to Sirens?
We had like an image as Panthers of people not really doing anything, and we sort of wanted to drop that and completely rebrand the Twitter, the Facebook, the Instagram, just make sure there's a consistent style running throughout our whole social media. And we thought, well, if we're going to do stuff like that, we should change the name, change the attitude, sort of change us completely, so we're pretty much a completely different club but unrecognisable from the UEL Panthers.
So of course we can see all the trophies behind you, but what exactly did you win last year?
We won 4th at a national competition in level 2 co-ed. So, for our first competition we weren't too bad. We had an injury mid-routine and we had to rush off and re-perform. So it was a pretty dramatic first competition for us all, but we were really happy to come away with 4th. We look at the videos and the playback and we're really happy with our performance and proud of ourselves, which is kind of the most important thing.
It was no doubt a very proud moment for the club and yourself as well at the Sports Awards. Tell us a bit about the moment you were awarded the most improved club and I suppose how proud you were.
I was amazingly proud. I mean, we were nominated for both, and I'm not going to lie, winning Club of the Year would have been amazing, but then looking at the faces of everyone as they announced who was most improved, it was such a heartwarming feeling, and any sort of like, oh, we could have done better was, you know, it was completely vanished by the amazing smiles on my team's face. I can't even describe it. I was so proud. Just to make like a group of people so happy, it was unbelievable.
And you actually picked up a personal award yourself.
Yeah, I was, oh god, if you can watch it, I like cried. I didn't think I was gonna get it. I know people had nominated me, but you know, when you sort of, you're just not too sure, because we only came fourth, it was our first year. I was just like, there's a long way for us to go still. So I just thought there's lots of other amazing, talented people on different committees that deserved their own award as well. And for me to get it, I was just overwhelmed that they recognised the work I'd done for cheerleading.
What plans do you have for the club for the coming season now?
Well, we were lucky enough to be granted the Team UEL funding, so we've got an extra training session, we're going to an extra competition, so hopefully one in February we'll get a chance to get the score sheet back and improve on it, so when we go to nationals this year we can come back with a massive 40th first place trophy. That's the goal.
And of course we'll be keeping a close eye on yourself and the cheerleading team.
Thank you.
Well done, thank you.
Very much.
So this is the part of the show where we really just kind of look through all the big fixtures coming up, and I believe it's the 14th of October next Wednesday in the evening, or some midday actually.
Yeah.
It's really depends.
Start from like 2 o'clock onwards.
Yeah, some games start at 1 this year, which is interesting because last year most of them didn't, but there are a few 1 o'clock games this year.
So you can even go to 2 games, I can probably imagine, if you
you
really
can
were that devoted. And of course,
I will be.
the big Don, we don't ever question Don's devotion for getting to more than 2 games a week. I love it. The big games, of course, next week, I suppose, would be the basketball men's first team. They're taking on Bath first in the Premier South. How do you think that one's going to go, Don? The reason why I'm asking is because you covered them quite well, or quite to a big extent last season. And how do you think that one will play out?
Yeah, I think it's a good way for UEL to start the season. I mean, obviously they got home fixture, that right there is nice. And then against Bath, they beat them comprehensively twice last year. I would expect to see the same. I would expect to see a big win for them. I think it will be good because, as Coach JP talked with us earlier, it will be a slightly more difficult season. They've lost both of their big guys. They've got 2 new ones coming in, but it might take them a while to get adjusted. So the team's got to kind of have an opportunity to gel in a game, and I think against Bath it will be a really good opportunity for them. So maybe it won't be as big of a win as they would have liked, but it will definitely be a win, and I think it will be a good chance for them to really get to understand their new teammates.
And you'll be at that game next Wednesday?
I will.
That's fantastic, so we'll keep a lookout for a feature on that game. Hockey's men's first team are in action as they play in the South East Tier 4th Division. They take on Greenwich first team at home. They don't actually play in UEL, they do play somewhere, I believe, near Leyton Orient.
Yeah, Lee Valley. So
Where also the tennis, they also play tennis at Lee Valley. I think they do quite a lot at this facility there.
And tennis is another good point. I know they are away this week, and we only said we really do home games, but you're doing a lot this year for tennis.
I hope so.
I mean, they're looking quite good at the moment. Of course, we do know Seb K. I mean, he's just a giant, really, isn't he? I mean, he's a bit like yourself, Don, to be quite honest.
Yeah, he's actually taller than me,
I
which I strongly resent.
When I saw him again this year, I thought he was taller than last year.
Absolutely, and some of these tennis players, you kind of know who they are when you see them walking around on campus because they're
you're either a basketball, volleyball, or a tennis player if you're tall.
humongous. They are
Or you're
really.
just Don.
But not,
Yeah, and then there's me.
Yeah. 1 in a million. Of course, we have volleyball as well. The second men's team who play in the 2nd division are taking on Queen's Mary first. Don, you're doing a bit of volleyball, I believe, over the next couple of weeks. It's like myself, actually. I think I'm doing men's all first in the next couple of weeks, so looking forward to that one. But how do you think they'll fare against Queen Mary's first team now, the second men's team of UEL?
Yeah, I saw quite actually a fair amount of the men's second team last year, and they're very good. It's like actually it's the same in men's basketball with the second team. You think because of the second team that they're substantially inferior to the first team, but in reality, it's simply that there
are not that many spots open.
Right, and they're really good. The rules are, of course, that you can't have 2 teams from the same university in a Premier League. So I think that at some point you'll see the men's second for both basketball and volleyball knocking on the door trying to get into the Premier League but unable to because they've already got a team there. So I think they are very good, so I would expect them to win.
I mean, it's pretty good for competition as well. Basketball and in volleyball, like if you're not playing well in the first team, then someone else just might take your spot from the second team because they're playing so well. And that's probably it's really good for them as well, because they know that if they play well for the second team, they might just get kind of promoted to the or called up to the first team.
And that could be quite a key figure this year, with players leaving last year and it being so dominant. Maybe JP, the coach, might not feel something's working, and maybe we might see people getting promoted or demoted over the season, which would be quite interesting to have a look at. And of course, I think it'd be silly not to really mention the football first team. Of course, they had such a successful year last year, and they are taking on Queen Mary's in the First Division next Wednesday away from home, so we'll have more on them in the next couple of weeks. I believe they are going to be coming into the studio over the next couple of weeks, so that'll be very interesting indeed. So that's the preview for next week's show. I hope you really enjoyed it. Sebastian's Don have joined me alongside. We'll be back, I believe, next week.
Yeah, next week should be show should be out on Friday next week. Should be released sometime towards midday.
And we're really looking forward to that. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the show, and we will see you next Friday. Goodbye from me.
Yeah.
Goodbye.